All right. All right. All right. It's March 28th. It is 2023. I'm Joey Ragona. You are who you are. This is the Marketing Made Easy show for another round on a Tuesday night. It's so great to have you here. I am super excited because the weather is obviously getting better and better. And we have an epic topic to talk about tonight, as always, because this one is one of my favorite topics. Which one? What isn't my favorite topic, right? But it is about positioning, because positioning was one of my. I think it was probably my second book that I read. Uh, when I was 16 years old or something like that. And so positioning is so important, and it's one of the main things that we need to do when we're talking about um, standing out to the industry, standing out to your clients, your dream clients, all of this stuff. And it's super super important. We're going to talk about how to position yourself now in a noisy world, because it is getting really noisy in this world. And there, Scott just bounced back in. Hey man, you're losing a little bit of the bandwidth there.
Yeah, I switched over to the hotspot super speed, so there were no issues.
Very cool, very cool. Nice to see you, man. So
You
we're
too.
talking today about positioning in this extremely noisy robot driven world. That's the topic for tonight. And you and I were kind of talking about this before we went live, a little bit about the GPTs and all these things, and everybody's jumping on board with all this kind of stuff. And so I just want to talk about like positioning in this robot driven world. That's the topic. I'll leave it for you with you for a second and see what your thoughts are on that.
Wow, that's a big one, bro. And you posted today in the group, and for those that aren't in the group that should join the group, you'll put the link in there. And of course, if you're watching live, hashtag live. Replay, hashtag replay. If you're on YouTube, give us some love there, and LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and all the other places. Anyway, you posted today about Tony Robbins and talking about just staying in the lane, and that's not the exact thing. And I jumped in with outliers, the 10,000 hour rule, and staying focused. And one of my clients talks about guardrails, and I've gotten really serious about guardrails. And the bright and shiny objects it's ridiculous. I don't have time to sit and play with AI generated animations of birds and houses and horses and things. That's just me. I would like to serve people and live within my life purpose and hi Lorna. So, and then the whole chat GPT, yeah, I played with it and I've looked at it and I'll use it for research from time to time from an idea. But when I look at it, I just, people promising that you can write 30 days of content in an hour. Well, what's the content you're putting out there? Is it just some chat driven pablum that's just going to litter the ethernet and the whole? It's kind of like in a movie, in a futuristic, the spaceship's going through space and you see this debris field of all kinds of junk in space. Well, I'm sad because I think that this is creating so much junk out there, and it's all pulling from the same stuff over and over again. Where does
Yeah.
plagiarism come in this whole thing? And we talked right before is you teach and write marketing copy. And John Carlton said it today in an email. We have to go talk to our dream clients in training, and see what their challenges and problems and language and emotion is. And I don't see that in Chat GPT. I don't see any emotion. I don't see the connection to the human, to the dream client. And what I also see is it likes to lengthen things rather than shorten things. And I'm about Jeffersonization. The greatest of all talents is not using two words when one will do, which is Thomas Jefferson. And I had somebody write some scripts for some videos, and it took me an hour and a half to edit the first one from Chat GPT. So to me, anybody that's going out and just putting that stuff out there, what are you doing? It's like article spinners. You're just throwing out and do different. And how do we show up is saying what you teach, Joey. What we talk about is build a tribe, serve them, don't sell them. And on their timeline, but go create this transformational value. Give them things that are going to help them. Not, well, here's an article that says, here's the article I decided to write today about this topic. And the reason this topic is important is because everybody, blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I know, Lorna, you can ask ChatGPT to shorten it. Go on,
Yeah. So
Joey.
like, well, this is like the whole robot thing. It's not just Chat GPT,
Right.
but that's one of the main things. What I want to talk about mainly is like how do we stand out? How do we bring positioning back? Because I think this is a really great opportunity uh, in a robot driven world. It's already been, even before Chat GPT was out, it was already there with scripts and bots sending messages in LinkedIn and Facebook and all that stuff. So it's not just about GPT and all that, but it is about this robot driven world, and it's been like this for quite a few years. And I've stood out against this from day one, and have made fun of it, and, and even put a lot of posts out and said, look at this, this is just not the way to do things. And we have a couple of people coming up in the academy who are all about relations and relationship building and human interaction and all that stuff. And I just think it's a huge opportunity for every one of us to really step into that even more. Even it's just a way to position outside of it, because you just said it at the beginning that it doesn't have any humanization to it. It's fine if it's going to go and pull in seconds. Here, write me a story about this or whatever, and it pulls in from the internet and gives you something to, I guess, brainstorm. That's kind of a cool idea, but it has no humanization, and it's going to be a little while before it learns how you talk and speak and write and whatever. I think that'll come. Maybe it'll come, but I guess at this point, everybody is. It's so funny watching marketers. It's so funny, right? It's so funny watching them just jump. Remember, this reminds me a couple of years ago when it was about Facebook and the whole iOS thing. Oh my God, here's the brand new way to hack the iOS thing. Like whatever the thing is, they're jumping on it, right? And then all of a sudden it's, oh, okay, I'm just gonna stop. I'll let you talk a little bit there, but
No, that's okay. And Lorna, thank you for your comments. Yeah, positioning, it's all about that. And yeah, Chat GPT has been around. Jarvis has been around. I played with Jarvis when it first came out. And again, I had somebody use Jarvis to write some copy, and I ended up having to start all over from scratch. Because again, the emotion. Could it happen? Will it happen? Yeah. Will I play with it? I don't know, Joey. To me, there's something about when I accumulate all the information that I've got from all over. And then I go sit in the coffee shop and I look at what's important and what needs to be and combine it with everything. Yeah. And again, you're right, because there's ChatGPT and there's this AI. And one of my creators has been building backgrounds using this cool uh, AI software that you go out and say, give me backgrounds of offices on the ocean with a computer and a desk. And then, okay. And okay, that's cool. But to me, just when it comes to connecting, and you're talking about that this evening, we talked about that before, is connecting with other humans. I believe we use technology to bring humans closer to us. Um, Again, the bots and this, and is everything going to be automated at some point? And I think the positioning is no, we're human beings. We show up and we serve. We don't just
yeah,
put out content that is so, yeah. And you heard me say earlier, to me, Chat GPT raises the bar of mediocrity, because it's like, oh, you could write 100 emails and sell them to your clients. It's like, yeah, great, go for it. But then everyone's doing the same thing. And does it get rid of the low level VA on some levels? Maybe. We'll
yeah.
see.
So Lorna, you're bang on. That
Yep.
marketing, it'll be the death of a lot of marketers. They think that it's the easy way out. It's all the easy way marketers, right? It's like this is going to revolutionize everything, and here's how I can make a whole bunch of money. There will be there, and there still is right now. I guess there's people making money on here's the prompts that you need to use for chat, and those are the people that are early in on the game and whatever. But it's a slow, it's a fast death to for those type of things. But I want to switch to like real positioning. Forget about the software, because I like we already know that whatever robot thing you're thinking of right now, we're talking about how do you position against that. Humanization is the big thing, first of all, right? So what is let's remind everybody what positioning is. So what is positioning, Scott?
Positioning is, God, isn't that Al Trout's book? It just jumped up on my desk. Positioning. It's all about how you position yourself from everybody else out there so that people know who you are and what you stand for.
Okay.
You go,
Uh,
you take it from there.
what does that mean? So from what I remember is I always come back to the Avis story. That's and I'll remind everybody of the Avis story, but it's basically this product ladder in someone's mind, and not the product ladder where we're talking about $97 to $2,000 products, not like that. But it's like, what rung of the ladder are you on in someone's mind when they think about the category that you're in? And I want to come back to this because categories is super important. And so it's like, what do you think of first? Like when I say soda, what do you think of? When I say running shoes, what do you think of? That's positioning. It's like, so in positioning is you have to be first in someone's mind. There's a ladder. And so if you're not first, you're screwed. Like, so there's a big problem here. And so somebody out there might be thinking, well, someone's already taken this position. I can't be first. What am I supposed to do? And that's what we're going to talk about today, is what are you supposed to do? And but let me go back to the Avis story. The Avis story, I don't know, I don't think they're still running these ads, but Avis positioned themselves brilliantly against Hertz, which is like the car rental. So Avis is car rental, and they said we are number two because we try harder, and that's positioning. Because Hertz was number one, and Hertz was saying we're number one, we're the best rental in the world, and instead of competing and saying no, we're better, so we're number one, Avis said we got you, we understand you're number one, but we'll take position number two, and we'll try harder. And that is what made them number one. So it's like, but they were still, but they never said they were number one ever, even when they were number one. And that to me was brilliant, of leveraging someone else's position and how to position yourself against their marketing or their status in someone's mind. Because if I was going to look for a car rental, okay, and I was looking and I saw Hertz and Avis, I would be thinking twice. I'd be like, I don't know, like these guys, they try hard. Like it would be in my brain. I'd be go, I don't know. I'm gonna go over here because these guys seem as though they're gonna try harder for my business and respect me more. Go.
So how would you include fresh hot pizza delivered in 30 minutes or less, guaranteed or it's free, as a positioning statement for Domino's?
It's a
When they
positioning. It's a statement. It's a positioning statement.
Okay,
Yeah. And but are they first in your mind now? No.
they've never been first in mind
Yeah. So
because I
it's like when you think of soda, you're probably thinking Coke. Like that'll be the first thing that comes to mind. And what about shoes? What comes to mind for you? Running shoes.
Well, you don't want to know my answer because I'm bare feet all year. So my answer is bare feet.
So you
But
don't have a running shoe that comes to mind?
no,
That's
I mean,
odd.
okay,
Okay.
fine, Nike. Okay, just Nike. Yeah,
Why? Why would Nike come to mind for someone who is barefoot all year round?
because of the positioning and ads I've seen over the years of Nike and the swoosh and
See? That's what the power of it. You don't have to wear the shoe. And
right.
see, Lorna even said it right there. Like, so it's like that's positioning. So what happens if you don't position? Or sorry, you don't own that position? What happens? You're Reebok or whatever. Like, so it's like, what do you do? Cheeseburger. What does cheeseburger have to do with this? That's a
Cheeseburger.
that one you
Cheeseburger.
stumped me on, Lorna. um,
John Belushi. Cheeseburger. Cheeseburger. Maybe we're going. I don't know. Pepsi cheeps.
oh, okay, maybe. So what comes to
I don't know.
mind? So what do you do when you're not number one? Any idea? You should know this. You read positioning, right?
Yeah, it's here somewhere, but
I
I'm
already
getting
said the
old.
word. I hinted to it at the beginning. What do
Oh
you do?
boy, cheeseburger.
No.
What? Go shoot.
It's categories. It's categories. You don't own positions like that. You own categories. So that was the other thing I took away from that book, and actually that was the book that was the catalyst for my first business, Spinning Sound, because I was selling records to DJs, but I wasn't selling records. I was the specialty remix club. So I created a new category, and I became number one, and nobody could touch me. And it was all because of that book. So I wasn't just selling records, I wasn't selling DJ stuff. It was that way. And same today. So today I have created a new category in this world of marketing. Do you know what that is?
Dream clients.
No, I don't own the
Oh,
dream client
jeez.
category. What I own is the unfunnel category.
Okay,
Would you agree?
I agree totally.
So I created the unfunnel, and that's where hopefully people will know that. Like the more I talk about it, then it's not about funnels, it's not about whatever, you know, it's unfunneling. So I hold that position, or hopefully hold that position in everyone's mind, which has everything to do with dream clients and everything else. That's what I'm talking about. How do you position against what's happening in the world?
I'm here. I'm just making a note.
Okay, I'm waiting for your thoughts and your notes.
So, how do you position yourself in a category when you can't dominate it? That's a question that I believe is on the table.
You create a new category.
Yeah. So, you created a new category with Unfunnel.
Right.
So, how do we create a new category? Is there a process? Is there a framework? I mean, people are out there going, okay, that's great. How do I do it?
I don't think there's a framework. It's
Okay.
understanding, it's understanding real about how is this different? How do I do something that's different from everybody else? That's really, I guess, what the framework is. How do I,
Okay.
again, position this that it's different than everybody else? And it's a new category. So let's look at Keurig. Keurig is not a coffee maker. So they created a brand new category out of making coffee. It's a single serve, right? It's a personal single serve machine, whatever, coffee machine. It's not a coffee machine, but it's a single serve fresh brewed coffee, right? So if anybody in the coffee industry could create a new category, so can any one of us. Let's see. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear cheeseburger? Oh, okay, that's what she's talking about. Okay. Uh, I don't know. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear cheeseburger?
Like I
I don't
said,
know.
mine went to John Belushi's skit on Saturday Night Live. Cheeseburger,
I like a lot
cheeseburger.
of cheeseburgers. There's a lot of great cheeseburgers out there. So I don't know. Nothing really comes to mind. I thought Dream Clients too. That's because I talk a lot about it, Meadow, but my entire thing is the category is unfunneling. And the Dream Client thing is part of that process, but it's what are you helping me do? I'm helping you unfunnel all the crap. And the core of it is by understanding who your dream client is. How do you position your unfunnel against the DM unfunnel? The digital marketer unfunnel? Is that what you're talking about?
Or the direct marketing on funnel.
Unfunnel? I don't know what you're talking about there. If
Yeah.
if it is, I'm totally unfamiliar with it. You answered that. Okay, so all right, Nespresso. Yeah, so Nespresso. Why am I not being able to get rid of that one there? Come There we go. So Nespresso has their own category. Let us know what the category is, Meadow.
Joey, I'll be back in 3 seconds.
And McDonald's. Yeah, so like a cheeseburger, like I would think of McDonald's too, but yeah, it's not necessarily that I would go there. But yeah, who comes to mind? Most would say McDonald's. Yeah, the cold DMs. The cold DMs. I'm lost. I'm lost in this conversation, Lorna. It's my fault. It's not yours. I'm lost because we've been talking about so many different things, and I'm trying to catch up on the chat. Hey, Joanna, good to see you. Nice to see you. Thanks for being here. How do you position against the DM unfunnel? Yeah, let me know if I a little bit more context on that one. So, all right, cool. So what we're talking about is like in positioning. So I want to give you some ideas and why it's so important to be number one in the prospect's mind, because here's the basic thing is you can't change someone's mind. That's where a lot of us believe that we can. That if we can just talk to this person and convince them of our product that it's better, then they'll buy from us. And that's where a lot of marketers go wrong. They go into this better product category. And that is really difficult to deal with. That's one of the reasons, like, why behind me you see that sign, "We Do Different." And one of my heroes, you've heard me say this before, Sally Hogshead, who is wrote the book Fascinate. You have to read Fascinate. And that's what it's about. It's instead of you going out into the marketplace and saying, how can I be better? Ask yourself, how can I be different? And different means that it could be better than what's already out there, but you're not positioning against being better. You're positioning against being different and the opposite of the of everyone else out there. Nespresso is the category. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that. Hey, man, you're back?
Yeah, my apologies. There's just some interruptions that I
Okay.
had to take care of. My apologies.
They make their own unique coffee that can't be duplicated. That can't be duplicated. Uh, Let me think about that. Can be duplicated. Can it be duplicated? Is that what you mean? It's kind of like that. I'm not sure about the can't be duplicated part. I guess there's no other machine that's doing that. And the same with the Keurig. So I know that the pods you can buy pods to fill up. Just like the Keurig, you can have these pods that you don't have to buy the actual plastic thingy, because we have that. We have these refillable pod thingies for the Keurig, and as well for Nespresso, they have them too. But that's not what you're talking about. So, yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you. I think that's cool. What do you think, Scott?
Oh, I don't know that the duplication is the positioning piece in the category because, like you said, Keurig, they created the single serve category, but other people now you can go in and buy different types of pods for the Keurig that aren't Keurigs. A lot of the roasters and coffee people are now doing it. So I think that and the other your unfunneling can be duplicated. I mean, somebody could say, "Yeah, I go through, I learn all that. I'm not going to do that anymore." But you're the dude that the unfunnel.
Yeah, it's
That makes
okay.
sense.
So you're talking about that. Like it's the same. It's not that I created a thing that can't be duplicated. That's the whole point. The whole point is if you copied it and someone else copied it and started doing that, and then it would eventually be, oh, so like you mean like Joey does, so like you, or like you're, you know what I mean, like that's the position that I hope to get to. It's like, oh, like Joey, right? And like, well, no, not like that, I kind of do it differently. And if you were, and I'm not saying you're doing that, but that's where how a marketer would do it. Well, no, it's not like that, it's kind of different. No, it's really not, it's actually the same thing, right? So and this brings up another point, which is when you're positioning, the mind doesn't work in a small, you know, slow process, right? In positioning, you have to blast your way in. You have to like go out with a bang. And this is why when I talk about this in Atlas and I talk about superpower matrices and all these other things, and I say, just be okay with being who you are and standing out and going out there. You're not being a jerk about this, but you're saying, this is who I am, take it or leave it. This is what I believe, all that kind of stuff. And you're making a very big, bold statement because you shake the market up. You're like, whoa, wait a minute. And that's what I'm talking about, because that's how people perceive you right away. They're like, whoa, I like this or I don't like this. There's no slow little subtle manipulation, perceiving all this kind of crap. And then you slowly move the other person out of the way, or the other market out of the way, the competitor. No, you blast your way in. Boom, here's me. Guess what? I'm here. This is what I'm all about. Take it or leave it. Do you like it? Do you don't like it? That's what positioning is all about. That's why when I decided to go with, I there's no exhausting launches. There's, in terms of the unfunneling, there's no webinars, there's no sales pages. Like, what? There's no sales pages? No, you don't need the sales pages and all these other kind of things. You don't need to do this. You don't need to do that. We're going to unfunnel the stuff. It shocks a lot of people. And that shock is something that hopefully sticks in their brain, because that's the Joey dude. If you want to do it simple without funnels, go to Joey.
Joey, when you encourage people to go out and, like you just said, say who you are, say what you stand for, say what you believe in, and say what you are against, and go
Mm-hmm.
out there and say it so that, as Seth Godin talks about, you go stand in another line. Is that similar to what we're talking about? Is that part of it?
I mean, I suppose, because if the other market, I mean, if there's two lines and there's one is Hertz and one is Avis, right? They're positioned. Which one do you want? Which one do you care about? Do you care about being cared for more, or do you care about being in the other line and paying a little bit more because they're number one, or they really don't need your business because they're number one? Do you want to feel like that? You know what I mean? It's a
Yeah.
perception. So I suppose it could be. We could argue that, yeah, it's part of the positioning.
Let's say that you come out and say you're only going to work with this type of person and nobody else. Like months back, I was like, I'm only working with yogis, and I'm going to draw a line in the sand, and this and that and that. Is that positioning?
Yeah, that's still positioning. I think
Okay.
it's still part of positioning. Um, but that's more of like, it's more of choosing a market. It's a niche, or like it's choosing who you're dealing with. It's more
Right.
that than actual positioning. I'm positioned as the unfunnel guy, but I'm only going to work with heart center people, that kind of thing, right? That's not part of the thing. It's like
Yeah.
somebody may reach out and say, "Hey, I heard you don't like funnels, or like massive funnels and all this other kind of stuff. I want to work with you because I want to make a whole bunch of money." Right. And I want to run ads and all these other kind of things or whatever. And like, you're just not the right person. So the positioning worked, but then it goes a layer deep for me, another layer down, I should say. And it's like, well, you're not my dream client.
Okay.
I don't know. What are your thoughts, man? Like,
Well, I think that there's different elements to it. And what brought that idea was, we were talking before, Meadow had sent out put up a message that kind of, and I know Jeffrey responded and said, congratulations on drawing the line in the sand and planting the flag on, who she's going to serve, what she's all about, what she believes and what she doesn't believe in. And I thought it was a brilliantly written, sent
yeah.
out message which kind of was like, you know what? When I think about energy work and reading, is that somebody that I want to engage with? Is that part of it? That's where it was coming from. Does that help in the development of it, or is that separate of it? Do you need to skinny it down to the
Yeah,
unfunnel guy? Try harder.
yeah. I mean specifics with Meadow because I know her and what she does, and if it's with human design and all that, and it's a different category. If you're not already number one in that category, same as yoga. If you're the number one in yoga, then you can't be number one. There's already a number one person. So you have to create another category. Hot yoga is a category,
Right.
right?
Yeah. So hot yoga is a category. Kundalini is a category. Uh, Restorative is a category. All these are different ones. So
Right.
do you create a category and then try and dominate that category?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the whole point. Is this I'm claiming this is not yoga, it's hot yoga. And here's why it's different. Okay, got it. And then you can come along and go, I do hot yoga too. Oh yeah, but I know that because those other guys, they're the ones who created it or whatever.
Right.
So you create the category and you're number one in that category. If that makes sense. So
Yes.
Lorna, what are you saying? So the unfunnel positioning. I see the cold DM strategy as an unfunnel strategy. So there are two unfunnel options. You answer this by saying, I forgot what you said about what to do when there are two options. I'm trying to backtrack.
Hey,
Um,
what I'm interpreting here is the traditional DM funnel: lead magnet, tripwire, core offer, profit maximizer, return pass, lock
she's
adjuster.
talking about direct messaging funnel,
Okay.
the
So
cold
direct
DM
message.
strategy. It all depends, Lorna, because I could argue that no, it's still a funnel because you could the cold DM may not be a traditional lead magnet opt-in page thing, but it still goes through the whole crap that we talked about last week in 150 episodes that we've been doing this. It still goes through the exact same stuff. That's not unfunneling. It's not because you do a funnel different that you don't start with the regular thing of an opt-in page. It actually starts with a DM. That's not different. The whole unfunnel is what happens in much and then when you're actually communicating with somebody. For me, you already know this. Like the unfunnel is about building relationships. It's about I think that there's two things that I try to really imprint on someone's mind when they're talking to me about an unfunnel. It's this one, aside from the three pillars that I created, which is what the gather your tribe first.
Serve, don't sell, and respect their time.
Yeah, so it's curate the tribe first. By the way, it's been updated. It's curate the tribe first.
Great. I like that.
Yeah, because that's what it's all about. It's curate the tribe first, and serve, don't sell, and then respect their timeline. So that's foundational thing. But there's two things that go along with that, with the unfunnel process. It is we have to understand that yes, we're communicating with people and we're building relationships. That's the gather and the curate the tribe, and then it's serve, don't sell, which means we have to understand, and this is a big one for everybody listening, that they believe, and when I talk about they, whoever it is that you're communicating with, believe you're like everybody else. And our job is to do different. That's what unfunneling means. Unfunneling is don't do what everybody else does, period. Knowing that they're assuming that you are going to do it. And so whatever you're being taught or whatever you're doing now is you do the opposite. And that is positioning because they're expecting the same thing from everybody else and you're not doing it. I can't tell you how many people tell me that they expected this from me and that from me and whatever. And then like when you didn't do this, it was like, holy crap. And that is what unfunneling is.
So Lorna's on fire tonight.
So positioning is related to your brand. Yes. You want to be the first person people, yes, you do. You want to
Yeah.
be the first person people think of, for sure. Is there a more specific part of hot yoga that can be owned? I don't know. Scott, you're the yoga dude. Tell me.
Yeah, there's plenty of. I mean, the actual here's the the hot yoga lineage started out as 84 postures. Then a dude, Bikram, took those 84 and said, you know what? I'm going to take these 26 and make them into a sequence. And that became Bikram yoga. And that's kind of become the standard in hot yoga. I guess that I could go look at it and say, you know what? Those 26, two of those shouldn't be in there. I'm going to change it and I'm going to do this and I'm going to call it Inferno yoga. And I'm going to potentially change some things about it that are more beneficial. I presume that then I could own Inferno yoga because nobody's got it and it's doing the same thing that they originally did, changing it up a little bit. Is that a would that be positioning
Yeah, that is. That is.
in your category?
Yeah, and the other thing too is we have to realize that making a slight adjustment. And I know you're just making this stuff up, but
Yeah,
like making a slight adjustment is not positioning. It's not like it's like I've got the I've got the 7-minute ab exercise. Well, I've got the 5-minute ab exercise.
right.
You're not positioning. That's not different, right? It's like so making a small adjustment because marketing is not a battle of products. You don't battle the product. You battle the perception. You battle the perception. What does the customer perceive this to be? So if they talk to me and they say, "What do you do, Joey?" and I explain my stuff, or I say, "Well, we're going to do this, we're going to do that," and if they perceive it as a funnel, then I'm not doing my job right. Or I'll correct them and say, "No, it's actually unfunneling, and here's what that means." So I'm always trying to change someone's perception of what I do so that the unfunnel piece becomes they understand the category.
Okay, Joey, here we go. Let's take, you mentioned 7-minute abs, 5-minute abs. Let's say that you had a new abs process, a new abs, and you wanted to position it. What would say, okay, I've got this thing that really nobody's talking about in the abs world, and it's different. So how would you like create that, put it out there as a new category? Is there anything you recommend for anybody that's listening that's like, you try this, you do this, you play with this?
The on top of my head, no.
Okay.
You have to
Just
sit with that. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear from you. That it's not just a formula template. You have to sit with it and look at who's number one. What category can you create, and then how do you become different and positioning yourself in that category like you did. I kind of remember when that started to happen, and you were talking about all this, and then your copy changed, and all of a sudden it was like, yeah, you don't do this and you don't do this and you don't have all this cheesy stuff and crap and this and funnels and landing pages and this that's all gone. And that was a game changer for literally in this whole thing. And that's
Yeah.
why Atlas, everything you're doing is so powerful because it's different.
Yeah. Yeah. And so
So
thank you. Yeah, and I see it now. Like I see people talking. They don't say unfunnel and stuff, but they start talking about, well, you don't need to do all this fancy stuff. I hear these words now,
yeah.
and I read these words in threads. You don't have to do fancy stuff. You don't have to do fancy pages, and just slow down a little bit. You don't have to build all these things out. You know, and it's gonna happen. I'm like, okay, so it's catching on. Like this is where people are finally hearing it, and it's in the marketplace. It's part of the culture, and so it's like, yeah, it's a movement, and it's funny to watch it because I remember putting it out there first about almost 2 years ago, and getting a lot of slack for it. A lot of flack.
Yeah.
Like, what are you
Yeah.
talking about? Like, you can't do that. And I go, okay, well, I'll just stick to doing my thing. You do your thing. Like,
Yeah.
okay. And now
Yeah.
it's totally acceptable. Oh, you don't need to do that anymore, right? It's kind
Yeah.
of funny. It's flattering.
It is. It's cool to
Uh,
see.
um,
So Lorna says here, I know your unfunnel is unique. I'm putting myself in the shoes of someone who doesn't yet know you and hear the word unfunnel.
yeah, and that's the
So I
whole
know
point,
your
Lorna.
unfunnel is unique.
If someone hears the word unfunnel, they're like, what does that mean? They're not supposed to know what it means. Nobody knew what a Keurig was. Nobody understood what single serve. Well, I guess they could understand what single serve is, I suppose, but they're not necessarily right now supposed to understand what unfunnel is. What it does is it opens up a conversation, and it allows me, like,
Joe,
immediately I'm in the position. Immediately I'm positioned against funnel, right? So whether they buy from me or not, that has nothing to do with it. It's like, holy crap, I met this dude at a bar and we were talking about online business, and you'll never believe what this dude said. He was talking about this thing called unfunneling. Everybody else is talking about this other thing, and this one dude talked about, like, what? Like, that opens up a whole conversation. Would you agree?
totally. Would you say that Google, I mean, when Google first, the word came out, we're like, what the heck is a Google?
Yeah.
Now it's accepted vernacular. It's part of our DNA. That's powerful. Unfunnel become
You
part
are
of the
making
DNA.
us, yeah, you're making us, or making us our dinner tonight
Making
for
you
sure.
up.
Making it, it's the test. Like, do these guys really know what they're talking about? Thank you for
So
that.
this is what I was kind of alluding to earlier. Thank you, Meadow. Yeah. Well, there actually is something called Inferno Pilates. That's where I pulled it from. It's high intensity, hot, blazing, blah, blah, blah. So I just pulled that out of nowhere. So this was from earlier, Joey. So what you stand against is a pivotal piece to positioning. Is that like an underlying foundational developmental piece of it? Like, would somebody at Avis say, okay, um, we stand, I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that, but um,
I, I don't know where it's going with that. Yeah, I need more context on this one because I'm not sure I understand this one.
well, let's say that you put out there is like, I'm against pushy marketing. I'm against funnels. I'm against sales pages. I'm against deadline sequences. I'm against all that stuff. Isn't that a pivotal piece of unfunneling, and your positioning is what you stand against?
Yeah, I would say
Okay.
so.
Okay. I'm just that's what I was getting at earlier. Was I think that as you develop that, what you're for and what you're against, that maybe create the category to position yourself.
Yeah, so I haven't done the best job of using it all the time because it's all about dream clients. So now that we're talking about it, more of the category needs to be constantly out there. This is what I do so that I own that position even more.
Yeah, and Lorna, her next point is very powerful and so
Okay, let's see
true.
here. What do you got here?
Conversation. Other people are talking about unfunnel, and for example, using a Google Sales Doc, but many don't understand. I would re-edit that and say most don't understand what's behind unfunneling. They use the tactic, not the system. They may get a hold of your victory. They may get a hold of a multitude of what you teach in Atlas, and I refer back to a dude that you got on with, and you explained to him what dream clients were all about. And in 15 minutes, so he's like, okay, I'm good. I know what this is all about. I'm going to go out and go find dream clients and make a fortune. When I like what you're saying, Lauren, and that's really important because it's the system, not the tactic. There's so many different pieces. Just look at your chain of beliefs alone, Joey. That's
Well, it
probably the
is,
toughest.
yeah, but I think it's not that it's wrong. I think that we have to remember that that what we're trying to do is not, we're not trying to sell the system yet. Unfunnel may be a system. You're right, Lorna and Scott, but it's also a category. That's what I'm trying to get at. I created the unfunnel category. How it's done is in a completely different thing. It just happens to be the same word. Like I'm in the this is the unfunnel category, and here's how you unfunnel, right? Like it's also the process.
Right.
So I got lucky there. Does that make
You
sense?
used another you used another word, Joey, movement.
Right?
And I think that's an important one too, because I believe that that's the ultimate goal of positioning and a category is that it becomes a movement, that you
Right.
create people who, you know, obviously the Atlas folks and Academy and all those, they're part of a movement that you created.
Yeah. So if you look at Atlas, those people like the Atlas crew will use not only the framework words, but they'll say a lot of times they'll say, I saw this and this is not the Atlas way.
Right.
Right? So the Atlas way has become its own category, realistically, too. Are you doing this
Okay.
the Atlas way? So that's a category, but it's also a system. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So when you're creating your category and you're creating also vernacular languaging ways, methodologies that become part of it, like you said, the Atlas way.
Right. But I wouldn't use that as really a category, even though it is kind
Right.
of a category. It's like
Okay.
I created this category called Atlas. They're like, what the hell's that? What's Atlas? It is kind of a category,
Okay.
but it's better to say it's unfunnel and Atlas is part of it. But
Got
people
it.
inside, like the cool part about that, and this is a whole other different level, but it's an important level to understand too, is that once the tribe becomes part of that language and they hold the language that can communicate only with the tribe, the outsiders are like, what are you talking about? And that
Right.
creates positioning, that creates curiosity and virality. Is that the right word? Something like
I
that.
like, yeah, whether it is or not, it's a great word.
It
Virality.
creates that.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, what am I missing? What is this Atlas Way thing? What is this unfunneling? What are you talking about? And Jeffrey says it goes from a pronoun to an adverb. Right on. I have an idea. I love when the ideas start popping up.
Uh-oh, an idea. Ding, 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 ding.
Category. All right. Oops. Yep. Exactly right. But you're right, Lorna. It's not that you're wrong because unfunneling is a process. And yes, somebody could say, "Oh, I unfunnel too," but it doesn't matter. Like if I own the category, then that's what I'm trying to get at. Free writing. What is it? Free writing adjectives or power words we identify with. I don't know what in reference that means. We're just trying to catch up on the chat because I think we were talking about some things.
Yeah. Free writing, adjectives or power words we identify with. Okay. Um,
See, like so. Let's talk about like the wording itself. That's why I said Atlas is, even though it's a category, I wouldn't focus on that as my category. It's my program, it's my system and all that, but I wouldn't focus because it has to be benefit oriented, right? The thing that you're doing has to be is better when it's benefit oriented. Unfunneling is benefit oriented. Why? Because you don't have to deal with all the crap. You get 96% of your time back, like all that stuff. So there's a benefit to the category itself. Single serve coffee. Oh, well, that's amazing because the coffee's always fresh. This is amazing. I don't have to sit there and the coffee's in the pot for 8 hours. That's amazing, right? So they own that category. That's why it's so important. Sorry, I was thinking, what is it? Meadow. I was thinking out loud. Okay, cool. Think out loud. That's why we're here. Let's brainstorm.
yeah, no, that's what she's saying is we have to do that in the languaging and the free thinking and the words. Based on what we're talking about here is just sitting down and putting it out there. And what is it that we do and identify with in words so that we do create a category and position so that, we are number one to think about. One of my clients was having a meeting with a billionaire and he said the billionaire was just having lunch with him, sharing information. And one of the things he said was, I invest in companies that are first and best. And the positioning piece of it, that's what he does when he looks at a company.
Right. Yeah. And so the reason why I think that, well, I shouldn't say think, I know because it's because it's Ries and Trout,
Right.
that the category is the most important thing about positioning. And I remember this so vividly that reading that back when I was just a teenager, thinking this is the secret to it all, because I understood marketing because I was just diving into marketing and I understood it all, but it was just that one area of no, it's about category. It's not about wording and all. Those are all important. That's great. Your little marketing messages and things. That's all great. And marketing tactics, but it was own the category. How do I own the category? And it was. I think that for everybody listening to this, that's what you have to figure out. Like, can you create a new category? Forget about everything else, and what is the category that you can own in someone's mind? Because you have to be there first.
I think I want you to repeat that, Joey, because that was important. Is how do you create a category that you become first in their mind? And again, it's the dream client's mind, not everybody's mind, because again, ask somebody in Africa that's never seen shoes, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about running shoes? And they're like, "Huh? What, running
Yeah,
shoes? We run." So it's
yeah,
got to be within the dream client world, right? Or
right.
not? Okay.
No, it's part of like the most money you could waste in marketing is trying to change someone's mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a waste of time. It doesn't mean they won't change their mind. That's where the chain of beliefs and all these other things come into play and whatever. But if you're spending money to put in front your product to say this is why it's better than everybody else, you're wasting a lot of money. If you put money into advertising or whatever it is, marketing, and say this is why this is different, people listen. They may not agree with you, but they'll listen. Huh? What do you mean different? And if it's different and it benefits them, that's a whole lot better.
By the way, I wrote that down. Why is this different? How does it benefit them? And then it becomes a whole lot better. How to create a category and position this as the one for your dream clients to think about first when it comes to your product service message.
Right.
Brilliant stuff, Joey.
Thanks, man. The most money. Oh, there. Right. The most money you can waste
Oh,
is changing someone's mind. You are right. I think what you and Meta are saying is how can we take our superpowers, which really is a developed art form, and put it into a category or create a whole new category? Yes, it's what do you do that can create a new category? So think about even the simplicity of the Avis thing. They created a new category, right? They're still in the car industry, but they created a new category, which was the number two category. And then because the number two category is not number one, we're better because we try harder, right? Like, you
right.
see the logic around that? They actually created a new category within the thing itself by saying, if I want the best car company that treats me really, really well, I don't need to go to the number one Hertz. I'm going to go to these other guys. Like
Okay,
it's
so here's a
it's
question, Joey. Lorna put cheeseburger up earlier.
yeah,
Now, McDonald's was first out there.
yeah,
And then came along Burger King, who said, we're going to grill, flame broil our hamburgers,
yeah,
not put them on a top. Wendy's came out and said, we're going to give you square hamburgers and they're going to be fresh. So are
yeah. Fresh, never
those
frozen.
right? So are those, is that the
That's positioning.
positioning you're talking about? Okay.
That I would say. I mean, dude, if you said to me, where can I go for a hamburger that's fresh, not frozen, or I don't want frozen hamburgers, who would you think of?
Right.
Right?
Okay. Yeah. And then there was Checkers, and their statement was because you got to eat. I'm like, somebody thought long and hard about that one because you got to eat. I'm like, really? That's the best you can do because you got to eat?
Yeah.
They're not around anymore. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Well,
anyway, so
there's
okay, that's what you're talking about.
I asked you before, I'm not sure if it's in the States. Here in Canada we have Swiss Chalet. Is that in the States?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know the slogan. This is not about. I think it's about positioning, but it's a brilliant slogan. Whoever did this is absolutely brilliant in my mind. Here's what it is: taste it once, love it forever. To me, whoever thought of that is a brilliant marketer, because it's like, to me, that's best positioning. If you've never tasted it, we're not just chicken, and once you do taste it, you'll love it forever. Like, to me, that's like, wow. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but to me, that was like, that's.
Well, here's the thing, Joey. For me, I mean, I've heard of Swiss Chalet. I didn't know that it was chicken thingy. If I heard that, what would that do for me? Is, taste it once, you love it forever. Does that, I don't know that for me, that does anything. I don't understand what that meant because if I'm not familiar with it, it's kind of like if somebody has no idea of online marketing and comes across unfunneling and they're like, what's an unfunnel? I have a funnel in my
Yeah, but
kitchen,
you know what chicken is.
right?
So if you're driving by a Swiss Chalet and you're like, oh, there's just another chicken place, where should we
Okay,
eat? And then it says,
got it.
taste it once, love it forever. Isn't that pique your curiosity?
Now it does based on that. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So
Got it.
you know it's a chicken place. You're like, got it. So
Okay.
you're
So
right. If
you kind
nobody
of
has,
you have to be quote unquote driving by it. Somebody
well,
has to
even if
be
you saw an ad, let's say you saw a newspaper ad, and
okay.
you saw a big chicken, and you're like, okay, whatever. Here's another chicken restaurant. But then it says that you're like, huh, I've
Okay.
never
I got
tried that. Why is it so different? Why would I love it forever?
it. Makes sense. Makes sense. Got it.
How do we go about finding the category? That's the $1 million question. That's the million
It's kind of
dollar.
like 50, isn't it like 50% of all advertising works? I just wish I knew 50%.
I
Yeah.
highly recommend, Lorna, that you pick up Fascinate. I think that will lead you in an area where it'll help you. And positioning, of course, get that book. Like, that's a classic book I think everybody should have.
Joey, do you have a recommended resources section somewhere with the voluminousness of your book?
I do. I will put it up into. I have recommended books. Thank you for
I really
asking.
no, because there's like I have stacks of books all because of you in this 4 year journey together. I've read a lot of books in my life, but in the last couple of years, it's been like, holy crap, how do I keep up with this dude?
Let me see if I can
The
put
answer
this.
is you don't.
Here we go. That should be. If someone can click on that and let me know if that takes you to my recommended Google Doc of books that I'm
Do
always
you
updating.
did you familiar what a draft is in cycling?
You've told me this before, like when you kind of go into
So
someone else's tunnel
in
of, yeah.
in the peloton, which is the cycles, the bicycles in line as they're going, the first guy is breaking down the wind for everybody.
Mm,
You're number two guy, you're just cruising like that close to the guy's tire and tucked so that he breaks everything for you. Then when he pulls out and goes back, you take the lead. And everybody behind the leader is just, basically in that slipstream. So it's kind of the
right.
same thing. You just got to like park yourself behind Joey's wheel and pedal your ass off.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Thank
Okay.
you. So yeah, man. I mean, Positioning, the battle for your mind is like is so classic. I would definitely get that. I don't think it's on that list. I gotta put it on that list. Unless it
By the
is.
way, Joey, that does work. That link works fine.
Amazing. Can you look if positioning is on that list?
Um, I do not see it at this time.
There, right. I'm gonna put it on there.
Yeah, I don't see it.
Okay.
I just did a quick scan, but didn't see it. Wait a
All right.
second. Positioning, the battle for your mind. Duh. It's the first one.
All right. I would be like I'd be kicking myself thinking like if this was the one of the books and there's guerrilla marketing on there too. I can't remember.
Well, you have must-haves. Breakthrough Advertising by Schwartz. Positioning. This is Marketing in the Practice by Godin. You have Fascinate. You have $100 million offers by Alex Ramosian. Buy Back Your Time, The Pumpkin Plan by McAllowitz, and Do the Work. Those are the ones you have highlighted. Which was the other one you want to know about?
Guerrilla marketing. That's probably not on there. But those are the
The
two books that like when I first got in it was started my entire business career, if you want to call it that. Was guerrilla marketing, which was, as you know, it was so different than all the other
yeah,
marketing books. And then positioning, I don't even know why I picked that book up. I have no idea why I picked that book up, but it changed my life. I literally, it was like, because I remember talking to my brother-in-law who's taking marketing in school, and we would battle all the time about marketing because he was learning textbook stuff and I was learning guerrilla marketing and positioning, and he had no clue. I'm like, what are they teaching you at this school?
yeah.
And then I just started the business using those two books. And the first thing I did was create the category. Was what am I selling here? And it was a DJ remix club. That's what it was. And
So was Columbia House Records a
yeah,
category?
Columbia House was around.
Okay.
And don't forget, like, in the world of DJing in my area, there was stores that were crushing it. Like, in Toronto here, it was like Star Sound. It was like, you go, where do DJs go? Everybody, Star Sound, Star Sound. But when you say remix, Spinning Sound. And I was like, it quickly became the guy. Like, the you want remixes? Spinning Sound. And the funny thing, too, I never forget, has a funny side story to this, because Spinning Sound, which I think is a great name now, but I remember like looking for a company name, and I was working at my dad's place, and I went to all the workers in the back, and I go, yeah, listen, I'm trying to come up with a name for my company, kind of like Spinning Sound. Just think about that. Like something like this is along those lines. And nobody can come up with a better thing than Spinning Sound. And I had an ad coming up or something that I was supposed to pay for. I'm like, whatever, just use Spinning Sound. And the thing took off. It was crazy. So the lesson here, folks, is to go with your gut. Like, go with that first, and it's usually right.
And Joey, I think that the questions that are being asked about categories and how do you is sitting with it and going through this as an exercise and brainstorming it and looking at your superpowers like you're talking about. And again, think time. What's your think time in regards to positioning and category? And
Yeah, I think that
factor it
with the book too, Scott, you'll read all of these great ideas,
in. Yeah.
right? And then it'll trigger that thought, like, oh, I see what they did there and why it's positioned. Here's another one. Look at any energy drink that's out there. Energy drink is a category, right?
And by the way, this was so familiar because it's sitting right here.
There
That's
it
why I was
is.
like, oh, it was somewhere. It's right behind me.
There it is.
Yeah. Good stuff.
So flip through it real quick. See if you can come up with another example for someone who's
What's in
watching or
Eveready?
listening.
Just opened it up to what's in Eveready.
Oh, it's the battery.
Eveready, yeah, dominated the battery market when flashlights were the principal application. Saw an opportunity and introduced the Duracell alkaline battery in a distinctive black and gold case. We already got the best name, they said. So, there's one that I just opened to. The shopping list test. I've got that highlighted. The classic test for line extension is the shopping list. List the brands you want to buy on a piece of paper. Send your spouse to the supermarket. Kleenex, Bayer, Dial. That's easy enough. Most husbands or wives would come back with Kleenex tissue, Bayer aspirin, and Dial soap. Line extensions like Kleenex towels, Bayer, not aspirin, and Dial antiperspirants have not destroyed their brand's original position yet, but give them enough time to hang themselves. How about this list? Heinz, Scott, Kraft. So there's just something I had highlighted in here.
Yeah, so Kleenex is another one, right? That's a huge positioning because when you say to somebody, what, where I need, my nose is running, what do they say? Most people say, get me a Kleenex. They don't say, get me a tissue. And that's
The mind,
powerful.
yeah, the mind rejects new information that doesn't compute. It accepts only that new information which matches its current state of mind. It
Right.
filters out everything else.
Right. Which is anchoring. So if you
Right.
talk about an online thing and somebody says, I want to do this funnel, blah, blah, blah. And I say, I'm unfunneling. And they're like, what? It connects with what they already know. And it opens their mind to accept the new information. Whether they accept it, agree with it, or whatever is not at this part of the conversation. It's that they're now open to the quote unquote suggestion that there is another different way of
Here's
anything.
another good here's another good paragraph, Joey. To be creative, to create something that doesn't already exist in the mind is becoming more and more difficult, if not impossible. The basic approach of positioning is not to create something new and different, but to manipulate what's already up there in the mind to retie the connection that already exists.
Right.
That's what we're talking about.
Right. It's anchoring. It's like that's this. Yes, you can have energy by drinking a Coke, but I've got this energy drink.
Right.
And there's not 50 billion grams of sugar. There's only 10. Like whatever. And it has these other electrolytes which Coke doesn't have. Right? It's positioning. It's a power drink. When I lived in Ethiopia, Nivea was synonymous with lotion. It literally meant lotion to them. Wow. Very cool. To innovate. So that is the show for today about positioning. Hopefully this was valuable to you. It always is to me because I love learning from you, getting some insight, getting challenged, and answering amazing questions, having discussions with my buddy Scott. I'm looking forward to next week already. Don't know what we're going to talk about, but
Always a treat, a joy. What are we at, Joey? 160 something or other?
165, I believe, today.
65. That's, yeah, it's fascinating. Like I said, I was loading up some of the shows onto my marketing solution, just one of my Facebook groups because I could. And we was just looking at some of the things we talked about over, and I'm like, holy cow, I remember that. And I remember that. And I remember that. And it's just every time I listen to the intro, like for years now, the same thing. It always just excites me and brings me warmth and joy. And again, Tuesday nights we talk about the 4% multiplier. You do a lot. Is what are you doing on a regular basis that just puts things out there? And I'll use the example from a few weeks ago. I used this with somebody, and you're just getting it out there. With I'm not sure who it was who searched guerrilla marketing, and the number one video that came up in the results was the show that had
Nice.
guerrilla marketing in it. And it's just like, okay, if we're out there doing those things on an ongoing basis, it helps everything we're doing. And maybe one day, Joey, we can have a show that's AI. We're both robots, and we don't even have to show up. We'll just
Yeah.
type in ChatGPT. Tonight's show, talk about this and talk about it the way I talk about things and tell some stories I tell and give some examples that I give. And I'm going to go and sit on the beach and watch my PayPal account grow. So there's my fantasy of the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, I'm sure that there's a lot of great things about it that I do love about AI. I really
And
do.
there
Um,
it,
but when it
Joe
comes
and
to
I,
this,
yeah, it's a good, like I say, it's like any tool. It's
yeah,
if I handed you a circular saw and say, go build me a deck, and you're like, okay, and you just started cutting a bunch of planks and no clue what you were doing, you'll end up with a deck. It's really going to look pretty crappy instead of doing it. Granted, I use it. I go say, give me a bunch of headlines with this topic after I run it through Copy Jumpstarter also, and then say, okay, great, give me this and that. And then I'll just use them as ideas, fodder
for
to
sure.
come up with something else, not to, I don't, maybe it's me, I'm old school. I still won't put an app on my phone. So there.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's an opportunity. All of this stuff in the robot world is an opportunity for us to be more human. People already feel as though we're not connecting, and
Yeah.
I think it's a huge opportunity for us to be even more human because people will feel it and they can now they'll read it because most people are not going to change a dang thing about whatever they um chatbotize. It's all
Chat
going to
the
be the
time.
same.
Go get that domain. But you're absolutely right. I think I shared with you, a buddy of mine shared with me his new website, and it was, code.ai something or other. And I read it, and he's like, so what'd you think of the copy? I said, AI wrote it, right? And he goes, how'd you know? I said, because there's no emotion in it. And it's standard stuff I've seen. And no, Meadow, I'm not going to be a robot. My goal that most people know is to get rid of technology altogether and hang out on my integrative, holistic, organic oceanfront yoga resort and come into the office once a week and play. And humanity is the rarity. And I believe, Joey, that that's the difference is, and you're really getting into this now with how you're positioning you and the people you're bringing on to help is how do we create the connections humans. And I'll go back to the speaking industry years back when teleconference came out and everybody in the speaking world was freaking out. It's like, that's it, it's over. People are never going to come to live events and hear us speak because they can sit in a conference room and watch you on a screen. And I was like, I'm sorry, nothing will replace the human element, the human touch. If you said, I'm doing a live event in June, people would come because they
Right.
want to hang out with you and the people you know. And I don't believe that's ever going to change. We're humans. We were designed to be with other humans. Human design, huh? Designed to be with other humans. And that's how we connect and that's how we thrive and survive. And the more we get away from that, the less we're going to thrive and survive. So I believe for us as heart centered marketers, it's about keeping the humanness in it and only using the tools of technology to help the human connection evolve better.
Yeah, brilliantly said, man. Brilliantly said.
Right.
I can go down a whole other rabbit hole, but I won't because um, I, this morning or this today I was talking or thinking about this whole. I guess it was just germinating the whole day, and I was thinking about the process of communicating with your audience, with your list, with your dream clients, and all these things. And because I'm doing the Atlas coming up Thursday, so I'm always thinking like, what's the conversation going to look like? What are they going to be asking? And part of it is in this discovery process. I know that there's going to be a lot of questions in the messaging part of it. And then I'm like, okay, here's a great way of doing this, which is all a manual process. But it's so simplistic but it's unscalable. But I think that's what is needed. because everybody's trying to do the scalable pieces. And if you do the unscalable, and I'm not making this up because I credit Joey Coleman for this, and yeah, that's where I first read it. If you do the unscalable, then that's another way you can position. And I think that everybody needs to hear this because
Yeah.
everybody is always about how do I scale? Okay, I've got this thing working. I've got my webinar. I made a couple of sales. How do I scale? That's the
Mhm.
wrong question to be asking at this
Yeah.
point. I'm not saying never scale and all that, but dude, it's like I because you've been through Atlas. I teach this. It's like how do you
Yeah.
do the unscalable right now?
Right.
This
Yeah.
is the opportunity that you have because you're at this a growing piece of your business. Because you don't have a million people on your team, you can do the unscalable. And part of this now is this open opportunity of all these robots and all these things coming into play that everybody's trying to scale even faster or pull themselves out of the equation.
Yeah.
Our job, in my opinionated knowledge and experience, is to put ourselves into the equation even more now, into it.
I am in full agreement with you, and I'll hold the signs and the picket line for that movement of being more human. And Meadows got a few things in here. We should have a retreat, Joey Ragona. Scalable
Definitely.
thinking stole the heart out of my business. Exactly.
Wow, I'm
And
going to steal that quote.
you should.
That
That's
is
great.
powerful.
Scalable thinking stole the heart out of my business. I started thinking of people as numbers, and it messed me up. And it's so true. Uh, there
Thank you for
are,
being so vulnerable, by the way, Meadow.
yeah, she's great. She's great. Interesting, Joey, that, just from a standpoint of what we play with here, I just want to pull something up that I was playing with earlier today. There are 2,755 billionaires on the planet as of this year. 2,755. There's 56 million millionaires. Okay. From a standpoint of scaling, what would happen? We've talked about this. If we had a couple of hundred dream clients, like from there, they don't even have to be millionaires. But again, there's 56 million millionaires. And a lot of them probably would fit in a dream client scenario. You don't need a ton of them. You've taught everybody that, okay, I'm going to do Atlas X number of times and have this many people. And I do the same thing and I get better and better and better. Outliers, 10,000 hour rule. What happens if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and get better and better and better and better? And all the things you put out there constantly, your prefluence, your omnipresence, your breadcrumb, benefit breadcrumbs, all the stuff that's out there that you're doing and you keep doing it better and better and better. People are like, I want to work with this dude. I want to hire this dude. I want to be part of this thing. That makes sense. So, and I
Yeah.
love what you said earlier is that, you know what? You got to get an Atlas and you're probably not going to make money in the first 3 to 6 months because you got to figure this all out. And it's
Yeah,
like
and
when
that's
I,
positioning. That's positioning.
yeah,
Right? It's
that is.
it's like when I talk about the two categories of Atlas, the unlearners and the learners. Like that's positioning. There's you only fit into one of these categories. And if they don't identify with that, that's part of the belief and all that kind of stuff too, but that's positioning. Like yes, I'm there. I understand that. And I want to go through this process. It's all positioning and I'm learning every day about it. Like how do I do it better or how do I it's not only that like positioning though, Scott. I don't want people to think that this is just a marketing. How do I spin this to sell things? It's not that.
Right.
It's more of it's about learning from your audience and truthfully seeing what the process is, and then making it even more um, uh, public to to dream clients, to potential dream clients coming in, to saying, look, this is the truth. This is really what's going to happen. If you're not prepared for this, this is not right for you. That's all positioning.
So Jeffrey says the process and everything we went through and with who we did it, what we all talk about when our goals start to materialize. And I've got on one of my little index cards, research your own experience, Um, Absorb what is useful, reject what is useless, and add what is specifically your own. That's from Bruce Lee. I saw that on something, and I just thought it was kind of what Jeffrey just said here is, yeah, we research our own experience. And I love this discussion, Joey, to go deep into what is the category. And I'm going to play with that this week.
Amazing. I'd love to know like what you come up with, man.
I shall.
Thank you for being here. As always, my friend, thank you, every one of you who are watching us live, hashtag live or hashtag replay on the replay. I appreciate you, and we will see you next Tuesday for another edition of Marketing Made Easy. Ciao.
Ciao.